Let's stand on our feet as we bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of the Lord. Come on, everybody. We come. We come to give him the glory and the honor. Anybody come to give him praise? We come to give you all the glory and the honor. Come on, anybody come to give him praise. The Bible declares, oh, give thanks unto the Lord. We bless his name. We lift him up. We adore him. Thy name be Lord. Come on, everybody, let's open up our mouth and say, I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. We come. Anybody come to bless him? Lift your voice and say, oh, give thanks. God, we love you. We adore you. There's nobody like you. Hallelujah. Oh, Lord, how excellent is thy name. Thy name in all the earth. When I think on the goodness of Jesus, all that he's done for me. We bless him. We give him glory forever. Hey. Oh, Lord, how excellent thy name in all the earth. When I think of everybody everywhere, all he's done for me.
Connecting the community through gospel.
The new 107.9 FM, W300EB,
Macon and WDDO 980 AM
Perry.
Macon.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
It is now time for the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwinnett, WESTBROOKS, and Mr. DUMAS.
And good afternoon, and welcome to another segment of the NAACP Truth Show. I'm Willie Dumas, your host. We'll be joined later by President WESTBROOKS. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Had a rainy weekend and also a rainy Sunday. And we've been getting quite a bit of rain in the forecast these last couple of days. So hopefully you're staying out, out of the weather in the late evenings. That's when the showers usually come. But I had a wonderful weekend this weekend. Got a chance to go down to Montezuma, Georgia, where what they call the Big Trophy car show, the Big Trophy car show down in Montezuma, Georgia, down at Flint River Park. Had a wonderful time down there. It's real sunny that morning from 9. Started about 9. I got there around 9 o'clock, but all of a sudden, about 2 hours later, it poured down rain. So we got soaked, but it was a good show. Had about 180 something car participants. There were a lot of people there, spectators, a lot of vendors. had a lot of things going on. Of course, I was bringing the music to the people, and so we had a wonderful time down in Montezuma, Georgia. Um, Hopefully, those of you who didn't make it will get to make their motorcycle show, which will be in Fort Valley in September the 7th, I believe it is. So a lot of things going on the weekend. Some other things that are happening, of course, what's uh, pretty much crowding the airways, so to speak, is, of course, President Biden stepping down from his position to run against Donald Trump. And we know that he has recommended uh, Kamala Harris to take that particular spot, and that's yet to see if that's going to happen as far as when they do the convention. But so far, that seems to be the way things are going on the Democratic side. And so we'd love to hear your comments about what do you think about this change, this sudden change. I see President Westbrook has joined us.
Yes, yes, yes.
Good to see you, President Westbrook.
Hello, audience, everyone.
Yeah, we were just getting into the change, of I guess a candidate for the Democratic Party with Kamala Harris, with
Right.
Joe Biden stepping down, and how that's going to affect the party.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of talk about it, and as you know, it's a lot of work that needs to be done. We want to actually um, thank President Biden for his service to this country.
Absolutely.
A lot of things that he's done for this country, and so we want to actually send our condolences and our prayers for him in recovering. Um,
Absolutely.
and yeah, I was actually in church yesterday when the pastor got an alert on his phone and said that 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 had taken place, that Biden had stepped down as running for in the 2020 uh, for election against former President Trump. So, like I said, you know, we're gonna stay focused on what's really going on and what we need to do. With the NAACP on a local, state, and national does not endorse
Absolutely.
candidates, but at the same time, we want people to understand that we look at the issues that are going on in this country across the nation, um, and we look at the issues that are going on, and that's how we make the decision as to how we're going to handle things as far as the NAACP. But I want to encourage people that at the same time, people have to understand that members of this organization have the right to choose as an individual who they want to vote for.
Absolutely.
So if I'm out and I'm saying something, you got to be able to separate me from the NAACP. If I don't have on the NAACP T-shirt and I'm speaking, then I'm not representing the NAACP. I'm representing myself as an
Your own
individual.
personal
So I
view.
have that right to
Absolutely.
vote and endorse who I want to as an individual. And so does any other member of this organization has that same right. But we have a lot of work that needs to be done. One of the things that touched my um, because I've worked in healthcare, Mr. Dumas, for so many years, and worked in social work, social services for so many years. So when President Biden took office, the first thing that he did, and I was just looking that really um, uh, that really hit home with me is that when he came in and the first thing he did in March of 2021,
Hmm.
that was right after was sworn in. He launched a 1.9 trillion dollars in pandemic aid, creating new programs that temporarily have children's poverty, halted evictions, and contributed to the addition of 15.7 million jobs. And I want to talk about that too because we're dealing with evictions right now.
Absolutely.
People being evicted from their homes for different reasons. So I just want to thank the Biden administration for that that effort, because we do know that before President Biden actually won the election, thousands of people died because um, our president that was President Trump that was in office at the time did not believe that the pandemic really existed. It was kind of put out there as a joke while people were actually losing their lives. And I just say to anybody that's listening to this show, if you have anyone that died doing
COVID or
COVID, or
the pandemic.
this is something that this was very serious, and you need to be, when you get ready to vote, you need to be not voting for a particular party, but you need to be looking at the issues and looking at the community and what's being brought to your community, what's being provided to your community, and look at the issues at hand, because that's what I look at when I decide to make my decision as to who I'm gonna vote for. I look at the things that affect people of color, people that low income families, because like I say, I've always worked in that type of field where we're dealing with people that cannot afford health care, cannot afford medication, people that are being evicted from their homes. And while we have a lot of that here in Macon, and I've been, I'm looking at the news, I'm reading the newspaper, I'm reading a lot of thing that's going on with the eviction process, where people just giving money to folks that's, like a lot of times I say, sometimes when you do things and you got to put it on the TV every time, you're not doing it from your heart, you're doing it to be seen. And um, when your people are losing their homes, and we have a high rate of evictions here in Macon, and people are getting money to uh, help, you know, people with housing or whatever their situation may be, maybe utilities or whatever. But until we deal with
The eviction
the
itself.
reason why people are being evicted,
Right.
we're going to have a high eviction rate here in Macon-Ville. And people not focusing on that. They just focusing on this grant money. If they get money, they can get on TV and talk about what they've done for folks. But we got to deal with the root cause of these evictions.
Absolutely.
And some of the things that I see, I know doing we got some good property owners. We have some good landlords, and I can't say that every landlord and every property owner is doing something wrong. I would be
Right.
not telling the truth if I said that. But because of us in the courtrooms, because of us being able to pull court hearings, when the things that we're seeing with these evictions, and that's one of the things that our governor should have put in place right after um, the pandemic relief expired. It should have been something put in place where landlords could not go up on the rent, but a certain percentage.
Right.
We don't have that in place.
And there were
Not
some major increases
right.
on rent.
And so what they're saying fair market value of housing, if housing um, rent amount is increasing. So what we're seeing is that because we don't have anything in place that the landlord can say, well, I don't have to have a reason to evict you. They know that. They can just decide they don't want to rent to you anymore. There's nothing put in place. And I was just reading an article here last week where and I don't forget what state it was, that has now put a just cause, pass a law. The governor passed a law for a just cause law. You do have to have a reason to evict people. We don't have that here in Macon.
Right.
So the only thing they have to do is give you a 60-day notice. saying that you got to leave. You don't have to have a cause. But I tell people even with subsidized housing, it's a little different. You do have to have just cause. But when people know that, and what we're seeing is mostly dealing with people that have housing issues that need repairs. Um, when they start complaining about things need to be fixed, if that's the first thing the owner want to do, they are, or the property manager, they are, you know, they'll send them a notice and say you got 60 days to move, and the person don't move, then they end up going to court, and they end up going to court trying to fight that because they know they're paying the rent every month. They haven't
Right.
violated the lease, so uh, uh, they go to court to try to fight it, and a lot of times, a lot of times people lose because they don't have anything in place saying that that you don't have to move. And what people got to understand, I'm not giving legal advice, but people got to know what their rights are. People need to
Absolutely.
know that they can counter sue. I'm saying you talking about people who have not violated the lease. The only thing you just want is your the property fixed, and then they file an eviction. Then you can't find anywhere to stay because you there's a waiting list at a lot of places that you try to apply for, and so you're left homeless. That's why a lot of people are homeless. You have people that are homeless that have jobs and that's employed, have some type of income. They may be disabled, receiving Social Security. They maybe just be receiving Social Security. But you have a lot of people that are. That's some of the things that we see as to reason why people are homeless, because of those reasons.
With the new bill that's been passed, where they have to treat people have to have humane conditions in the home. I think that will help alleviate some of the issue.
It may. I'm saying I think it's a good that I'm glad that they put that in law, but at the same time, and I also I have our secretary reaching out to the courts for us to have a meeting because we need to find out who enforces that.
Right.
Who enforces that? If the tenant says that I can't get something fixed, do they file a claim in the courts just like the
Just like
landlord
the
does,
landlord would
and
do.
then the judges are gonna hear the case, and but what we're finding out also is that the judges are not some of the judges are not listening to the cases, and that's another thing that we see also in the courts, Mr. Dumas, where when we pull these hearings, sometimes we're not in the courtroom. When we pull these hearings, you got a judges that will not even take the tenant's paperwork,
Wow.
their proof of evidence. They won't listen to what they gotta say. That they're just listening to what the landlord say, and that's wrong. When you come into court, each person have the right to give their side as to what happened and present whatever evidence they have. I'm not seeing that's happening all the time.
Right.
And then another thing that we're seeing is that you may come in the courtroom, you filed an eviction for one thing, and then when the tenant get in the courtroom, then they bring up something else about something else is going on. Then the judge rule on it. That's not fair
Because that has nothing to do with the original
because
eviction.
it does not give the tenant the right or give the tenant the opportunity to
Present their
defend
side.
that
Right.
because they came to court. They when you file an eviction for dispossessory, um, dispossessory, when you file an eviction for dispossessory, it then goes to the tenant. The tenant has to
Respond.
respond,
Hmm.
and so then they set a court date. When I come into the courtroom, I'm bringing my evidence based on what you filed the eviction for. So if you get into the courtroom, and we're seeing this a lot because I've seen somebody come in the courtroom about one thing, and then they brought up something about a $10 key, and that's what they were evicted for because they owed for a $10 key that was not part of the eviction.
Wow.
So it's not fair for the tenant when you come into the courtroom, you're prepared to defend whatever is on that paperwork that they filed the eviction. If you alleviate from that eviction and talks about something else, that's not what you filed the eviction for. I'm seeing that a lot too. The judge rules on something other than what the eviction was filed for, and the tenant is not prepared to defend that. We're seeing that a lot. These are reasons why people are homeless.
Absolutely.
You got some people that are not actually paying their rent, and that's why they're homeless. You got, like I say, and you got some property owners and landlords will try to work with the tenants too. But nobody asks the NAACP anything because we're the ones that be dealing with these issues when these issues arise. Everybody's having a conversation. As long as they're getting that money from whoever they're getting it from, they're fine. They say that they're helping people, but yeah, you helping more people get back into housing, but we're not dealing with the root cause of why folks are homeless.
Exactly. And it was, I'm sure it was an acceleration, during the pandemic.
It was, we dealt with that.
Right.
It was awful because, some people just weren't paying their rent.
Right.
You got some people that were on fixed income. For some reason, they were listening to someone else or got the wrong information. That didn't apply to you because you was not affected by you got your income never changed. So you're supposed to be paying your rent. Even with people that lost their job, they didn't say that you didn't have to pay your rent. They just kind of put it on the back end of it.
Right.
And so, but at the same time, people were able to get assistance in helping them pay their back rent. But a lot of people became homeless during pandemic because the property man. That's why President Biden had to put this in place, so people wouldn't be evicted because people were getting sick, people were losing their jobs, and that's why I say when we get ready to go to the polls, when people get ready to go to the polls, they need to look at these type of issues.
Absolutely.
Medicaid expansion. I think it's 9 states, including Georgia, that will not pass Medicaid expansion. So every person between the ages of 19 and 64 would be able to have Medicaid. Even in our dying times during COVID, our governor would not pass Medicaid expansion for people to have health care so they could go to get treated for COVID. Some people couldn't get treated. They died.
Right.
They didn't have health care. Couldn't, and so going to the hospitals were flooded with people with COVID. And so even today, they voted against it, just a couple weeks ago, voted down Medicaid expansion. And so they're still fighting for this pathway, which was require you to work or be in some type of either volunteer activity or not necessarily working, but you have to be doing something at least 80 hours a week, in classes or whatever. But at the same time, people, there's supposed to have been so many 900,000 folks that's supposed to have been signed up for it. We only have a portion, maybe 4,900 or something in that range that have signed up for Pathway. And I'm gonna tell you, because I retired from there, and I actually, that was one of the programs that I did, Medicaid. So some of the problems I see where people have not, and I just want to say this too, the judge just ruled against the governor. They would not extend their time to
Pathway.
get pathway. The number of people that they say they're gonna get. They don't have time to do that, and they haven't done it. And I think some of the reasons why is that is because when you have Medicaid, for example, a family has Medicaid, a husband, wife, and the children may have women. It may just be a single parent that has Medicaid. The entire family is covered. The mother finds a job, or the parent finds employment. So what happens is you don't just get cut off of Medicaid because you got a job at a certain particular place. Like, for example, I'm going to say just for example, George Powell. You don't get, you're not, your Medicaid is not
Just
particularly stops once you get a job. It's called transitional Medicaid. So you transition into another type of Medicaid once you find a job for 12 months. So that's some of the reason why Pathway is not successful, because you don't just stop receiving Medicaid, then you sign up for Pathway, Georgia Pathway. You go into transition to Medicaid for 12 months, which puts you in that transition Medicaid where you still have coverage for 12 months. After 12 months, then the parent may not be eligible for Medicaid, but the children are still eligible for Medicaid. And so, and what a lot of people, into my past experience there, in order for, once that happens, in order for a parent to get Medicaid, they have to report the father to put the father on child support.
Wow.
For the children. And a lot of parents won't do it, especially if they're already, the father's already paying child support. And if I've had some parents say, well, they're not going to do that. They just won't have Medicaid.
Wow.
They will actually decline Medicaid because they don't want to do that. They don't want to turn the father in for child support. But if you already have receiving child support, that shouldn't be an issue. But some parents are still under the umbrella of not making enough money, not making enough money, and they're eligible for Medicaid. But they have to turn in those. In order for them to continue getting the Medicaid, they have to give the father's name. So
they become detectives.
Child support, yeah. So there's different reasons why this pathway is not successful, and I think to the education part of it is an issue. People have to be educated. Some people think that you have to be working 80 hours. It's not just employment. You can be in technical college or volunteer, or, so I don't think that the education is out there enough for people to understand what pathway is. This pathway, I don't know if you remember, but during COVID, the Biden administration, they tried to get the Medicaid expansion passed. They were actually even going to do a lot of the funding for it, and Governor Kemp sued, and the courts ruled in his favor to accept Medicaid expansion. So here we is now. People still don't have Medicaid, and depending on your income and all of that, depending on your income, you're not eligible for Medicaid. You're not eligible for, the affordable care, because you have to have some type of income. So we still have people that do not have any type of health care between the ages of 19 and 64. Now, if you become disabled at any age, then depending on what type of, depending on your work history. So if you really don't have enough quarters in, if you become disabled, then you'll get SSI, supplemental security income, which Medicaid comes with that. But if you're somebody that's worked and become disabled between the age of 19 and 64, then you still are without health care because you have a 24-month waiting period to be eligible for Medicare. But you can, there are programs out there through the Department of Family and Children Service that you may be eligible for, which is called adult medical needy that you can apply for. But at the same time, we have people without health care that cannot be treated. And we're just saying COVID has never left. It's always been here.
Right.
And now they say it's a new strain of COVID. So, we need people to be able to have health care so people can be treated. Because if you're sick, you can't even work. And we ran into that where people have COVID and can't work, and then they end up losing their job, or even not necessarily losing their job, but they don't have the income, they can't pay their rent. So there's nothing out there. I sent an open record request back in April to the department to our Bibb County government to give us a accountability of the funds that are being given to people that we're helping, and I have not been able to get that yet. So I'm gonna have to go another route to try to get the information, but we have not received that yet from Bibb County government, because I just do believe that the EOC should not be the only people that are giving that type of money for people that are homeless or having issues with housing. We ourselves are going to be looking at trying to apply for grant money for not just housing, but for our criminal justice, because we have people that are getting out of jail that do not have housing. I'm telling you, if you don't have anywhere to live, you really can't concentrate on
anything else.
Housing and food.
That's why, we always have Sister Teresa Sullivan on the show to talk about daybreak. And she's leaving, and I'm just wondering how things are going to go. She's so compassionate about, what she does.
Right. And I just want to make one announcement because we're almost off the show, but the NAACP's Freedom Fund Banquet will be on October the 26th at 5 o'clock at Unionville Missionary Baptist Church. We're asking for your support. We're asking for funding, because these are the things that all our money is put back in the community. Any funds that we raise is put back in our community, and so we don't be in the public all the time saying we paid somebody rent and we did this. We just do it. So, a lot of our funding, like I say, all of our funding goes back into the community.
Right.
So we're asking for your support in providing in donations for our to be able to help, because everyone sometimes not everyone, but people sometimes get in situations, and we want to not just be able to deal with people's problems, but we want to be able to help financially, being able to help people also.
Absolutely. Our time has run out, but we'll see you next week, and hopefully have a good week. Until then, so long.
You have been listening to the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwinnett Westbrook and Mr. Dumas. Come join us next Monday at 4 o'clock p.m. on 980 WDDO.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions